Hello, welcome back. It is week 169 on Out on That Line podcast. I'm Jeff with my co-host Alex as always. Alex, how are you this week?
Jeff, I've done this bit before, but the podcasters are drinking into form. We're match fit, and today figures to be an absolute creamer. I'm feeling regal. I'm feeling robust. How are you doing, Jeff?
We have a look. Oh, of course, we'll have a look.
Oi, oi.
So we are going to be talking about The Last Dinner Party and their album Prelude to Ecstasy. Now, this came out last year, but in the scramble of getting the end of the year episodes together, sometimes albums get missed. We appreciate the first part of this year every year that we can kind of catch up on some things. So you brought to my attention this Last Dinner Party album last week, and I'm glad you did. I think this one's going to open up a lot to discussion today, and I just want to know a little bit about how you heard of it.
Okay, so interesting. I like this preview of we're gonna have a lot to discuss. My mind goes to a million places. The first thing I heard was the single "Nothing Matters," and I remember being like, "This is very interesting. This has kind of a Haim or a Lana Del Rey or a Florence and the Machine kind of vibe to it." But it's also like very 80s, very like dark wave. The fact that it's like all these orchestral elements, I was like, this is like highly interesting. And then saw that the whole album had come out and threw it in a playlist with every intention of listening to it that night. And because we have such a goddamn embarrassment of riches of music in the world, the playlists just grow out of control and you move on to another one and you just like can't quite keep up. So this is one that kind of got lost in last year. And then Tanner sent me a song from the album. And I remember being like, don't worry, buddy. Heard of these guys. I meant to get to them. Probably you should do it now so I can stunt on people a little bit. Talk about I've heard the album and how good I think it was. So I won't bury the lead. I really had a good time with this one. This is right up my alley.
Well, you know you're way behind if Tanner's the one telling you about it.
Yeah, seriously. He's streets ahead.
Almost as bad as Reno.
Rock solid.
Yeah, almost. So this one, I had never even heard of The Last Dinner Party, never even once until you mentioned them. So I had no idea at all what to expect going into this album. And then you kick it off with the first track, Prelude to Ecstasy, and it's just classical music. You know, it's just this very nice composed piece of classical music. And I get down with some classical music once in a while, especially on flights when I'm reading my book. It's always great to have going on in the background of the headphones. But it wasn't how I was expecting. Again, didn't really know what to expect, but classical music was not the way I thought this was starting. And I think what it kind of leads you into is listening to this album as like a composed piece rather than, an album composed of tracks. This said to me a lot more, I heard some Queen in there. I heard a little bit of like Jordy Griep kind of style, like just theatrics in there. There was a lot of influences I heard in there. And I know it's classified as like indie rock, but I don't even know how like indie rock I would consider this to be.
No.
Maybe some of the choruses, sure. You might hear some of that kind of always sort of sound, that kind of just big booming chorus, like layered vocals, things like that. But overall, to me, I thought it was very theatrical. Like it felt very much like a Jim Steinman kind of offshoot, like that he didn't have Meatloaf sing for him. It sounded like Midnight at the Lost and Found kind of. It was just like a little bit wacky. It was a little bit weird, but very creative, like very took a lot of risks, especially with how they kind of constructed some of the lyrics. I think you get a good mix of like some very like thought-provoking kind of profound lyrics, and then some very like just tossed off sort of bratty lyrics. To me, I just kind of felt constantly astounded at like the vocal talent of the person that carries most of the load singing lead. The bass lines on some of these songs were fantastic. You know, it was kind of like wherever you wanted to start picking things apart, there was something very interesting to find.
Yeah, I had sort of a similar thing where I kind of, as I went through this multiple times, was like, I'm going to try to focus on one element, and like Abigail Morris being the lead singer is kind of one of the first things that hits you, because her singing really kind of sells the whole concept. Which I actually didn't find this album to be weird. However you mean weird. I didn't see as much Jordy Griep in this. I saw they're not the same stylistically with music, but it was the kind of like Zappa level of compositional discipline. This was very, very it's a version of above the neck authenticity that I really appreciate. Because you managed to combine these like really like lovingly crafted, composed songs with this kind of over the top in a good way vocal performance that sells the whole thing. It's very theatrical. This is definitely not indie rock to me. This is like Baroque rock, Baroque pop. If it ain't Baroque, don't fix it, Jeff. But I appreciated the theatricality without it being a gimmick. Like Chappell Roan has a gimmick and would define what she's doing as a gimmick. They do something very, very similar, but like utterly sincere. They're not aping Chappell Roan. They're not doing a bit. It's just this, like, they've adopted this whole Baroque style in their, you know, the way they dress, the way they write about things, the way that it's all put together. It's honestly kind of staggering to how many bands they remind me of. You have Haim in there. You have Bowie. You hear a lot of glam in there. You hear goth rock. You hear Bat for Lashes, Susie and the Banshees. It's kind of a like, it's sort of a cosmic gumbo. It's a very eclectic mix of a lot of different influences that come out not just like alternately in songs, but sometimes in the same song. We'll get into that. I had like one blow away favorite song in this thing, and I think it gives a lot to chew on that like typifies The Last Dinner Party.
Was it possibly Caesar on a TV screen?
Well, Jeff, wouldn't you know who won the pony?
That to me, that was the big time standout song.
Had it
like
all.
that was it. The chorus or the pre-chorus? Hold on, where's the chorus? Like, and just for a second, I can be one of the greats. I'll be Caesar on a TV screen, champion of my fate. Like, just the way in authenticity. I know we're talking about this like it's maybe not a gimmick, you know what I mean? But it's like definitely a certain level of a put on, you know, and to commit to the bit so firmly, and especially for a song like Caesar on the TV screen, it just lands so perfectly. You know, I think it's funny to me that what was it called? Nothing Matters was the kind of lead single from this. I think it should have been Caesar on a TV screen. I think it tells you way more about what you're going to get with the rest of this album than Nothing Matters did.
See, and I think that Nothing Matters splits the difference between, you're never with this kind of music going to get like #1 on the BBC charts, but you can be in the public consciousness. You can go viral, which this did. You can place. If you do something that splits the difference between the fact that this is not really interested in being commercial and isn't designed that way to something that's going to be like at least recognizable, you can kind of, you know, hope to get a little bit of the like the Wise Blood rub. And Wise Blood is not even necessarily like a household name, but you try to kind of lead with your most commercial foot on an album where that's not really what you're trying to do. So I get why they did it, but Caesar on a TV screen is wildfire. In this, first of all, it's one of those rare songs that is so ambitious that it could train wreck, but it avoids Duran Duran syndrome, where you can have, out of all three, you can have an amazing verse, an amazing chorus, or an amazing bridge. You can't have all three. And whatever you don't pick, if you're like, I don't really care about the bridge, I got to tell you, it's going to suck something fierce. It is going to suck something fierce. You can have a great verse, a great pre-chorus, a great chorus, if you like. You can only have one of two of the three elements on a Duran Duran song work. The Reflex. Need I say more?
Mm-hmm.
But this song goes from being a Nick Cave song in the verse to a Blondie song in the pre-chorus to a David Bowie song for the chorus. It's all totally seamless. It really, and like the sound does like shift on a dime. It becomes almost a completely different song, but there's just that one connective issue. There's a sneaky rhythm section
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have, like, no member of the band is the permanent drummer. So it really is kind of the bassist show in terms of like setting that rhythm, and the drums are there to support. They just like found a way to make this work, and it was not gimmicky, and it was interesting, and it kept you guessing the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Above the neck authenticity again with the way that it was put together, and then sold completely authentically by Abigail Morris singing. I'm gonna call that one an absolute creamer.
Yeah, that to me is, Caesar on TV screen, standout song. A couple other ones I do want to shout out. On Your Side, great song. My Lady of Mercy, great song. Sinner, great song. I really liked Burn Alive. I felt like going from the classical like composition opening into Burn Alive was a really good shift into giving you that taste of like the 80s. That gave you that really kind of like new wave, almost felt like Duran Duran a little bit. So it was kind of a good comparison. Like I liked how big of swings they went through on this, and I think to me, when I was talking about Jordy Griep, it was just, I think the sheer like audacity of some of these moments, I think is what I was really considering. Like it just always seemed like there was somewhere else they were about to take it. And that's what I really love about albums like this. And especially when they come out of nowhere, like I'd never heard of this band, but now this is one of those things that's going to stick, just like the Doechii album did, just like when we did Dua Lipa, Future Nostalgia, like that cemented her legacy on this show forever with that one album, So it's like, this is one of those things where I feel like I'm always going to look at The Last Dinner Party fondly because of how good this album was.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I got automatic buy-in on the next thing that they do. And it's interesting. I feel like sometimes on the show, like in our desperate attempt at relevance, when we're really looking at some of the mainstream releases, like doing the Ringo Starr album, being like, Ringo Starr is a household name. It's interesting how frequently those things either totally backfire on us, like Ringo Starr, which is just so bad.
Yeah.
Rolling Stones, so bad. Or we're pleasantly surprised. But I think one of the most gratifying things about doing this show is finding new people like this. Finding Jordy Griep was fucking great. It gave me the album of the year. I love that album so much. So I really enjoy being able to go back to these albums that I think had great word of mouth, made it onto our playlist graveyards, but didn't necessarily enter the conversation. Like, I like doing stuff like this. Lonnie Holly from last year. We just get to do a lot of cool things this way and discover a lot of different people. This one for me is like a 10 out of 10. Buy it. Yeah,
I'm gonna agree with you on this one. Buy it for sure. I think this is a great like vinyl album. Just like put it on, let it spin. So definitely go out and get this one. I don't know, did they release it on vinyl? I haven't even really looked up any release stuff.
Haven't looked.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I'm sure your local record store will be able to point you in the right direction. Maybe even get it on cassette. Your 8 tracks are coming back.
Hey, we can only hope.
Yeah, we can only. I wonder. I don't think I've ever even heard an 8 track.
No, definitely not. I've seen a laser disc, but I've never heard an 8 track.
Yeah, laser discs were like the size of records, right?
They're fucking cool. Yeah, they're CDs the size of records.
Was the picture good?
Oh, I don't remember. I just remember seeing a CD the size of a record, and shitting myself and having to go to the nurse get new pants.
Well, folks, if there's anything else you want us to review, new album coming out, an artist you think we've skipped over, make sure you tell us down in the comments. And where can they find that place to leave those comments, Alex?
Now, Jeff, I've said it once. I've said it hundreds of times. It's all on the record here. Oh, on the record. How interesting. That happens to be the same name as an incredibly popular internet show that's hosted at youtube.com/c/out on that line. Folks, what fortuitous circumstance be this? Because a seamless segue brings you into a treasure trove of wonders and trinkets and hidden pearls of knowledge and delight that you've only ever dreamed of. And it's happening on YouTube of all places. You thought yoga would take you closer to God. You thought you'd find God at the bottom of a bottle and under the beds of whores. But I got to tell you, you were dead wrong the whole time. And Jesus saw what you did. He saw all of it. He will never forget. I don't know a damn thing about it, and I can keep a secret. So can Jeff. So why don't you come on down to the holler and wash your sins away in the waters of Lake Minnetonka? That is youtube.com/c/out on that line. Folks, we've got reaction videos. We've got the single series, which is pretty much a grab bag on the record. So sophisticated. We just did an Aerosmith one. Jeff and I were in the same room for the first time, and Tanner was there. Where's our fucking parade? I think we earned one. Thank you.
Where's our Grammy?
God damn it. Where is our Grammy? Best group pod with special surprise guest. We did it, and it's there for you to watch. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel. You have to hit the bell so that notifications are turned on. You have to like the video, and you have to leave comments. You have to leave comments on the videos. For the love of God, people. I can't hammer this into your skulls anymore. At some point, you have to take responsibility for your actions. I'll hold you accountable, but I can't do the work for you. And neither is Jeff going to. And Tanner probably won't either. I don't know. Maybe you could talk him into it. The only way you're going to find out for sure what you're made of and who your real friends are is to go to youtube.com/c/out on that line today.
Just another in a long line of classics. And until next time, folks.